Let's move ahead to one of the other reasons that Canada is terrible, and that is the treatment of the vulnerable in this country.
Oh my
I know what a
goodness.
bleak segue, but as people at home know, Canada has one of the more extreme euthanasia protocols in the entire world. Um, you do not have to receive your euthanasia from an actual doctor. You can receive it from a healthcare practitioner, which can
Mhm.
mean a pharmacist or a nurse. We are advancing efforts to give it to people who are mentally ill in March 2024. Currently, right now, you can qualify for medical assistance in dying, as they like to call it, to sterilize the euthanization of the vulnerable and the difficult. You can receive it if you have a chronic, not just illness, chronic, I don't know what the right word is, situation,
Mhm.
where you are not satisfied with the treatment that you are receiving to alleviate your suffering. And so
Mhm.
you can be diabetic. You don't have to be fatal with anything, just have a chronic situation.
Yeah.
Diabetic, homeless, uh,
Oh, right, yeah. Ugh.
MS. There's a whole host of other, I don't even want to say illnesses because these are hardly, I mean, these, yes, they do cause suffering, but I don't know, maybe it's because I'm Catholic. I think there's value in suffering um, and dignity in all of God's children. But in Canada, if you, in March 2024, you can just, if you are having a suicidal episode, I
Yeah.
don't even know why we have suicide hotlines in this country anymore. Why are we trying to stop this?
Well,
Um,
that's yeah.
like when you can just go and talk to your pharmacist about ending your life. And I think even for some illnesses, they've removed the wait time. You used to have to wait 14 or 10 days to see if you're in like the right frame of mind. Um, and that is not the case in most circumstances anymore. When Canada first adopted euthanasia, they said, "Oh, no, 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 there will be safeguards that your death has to be nearly immediate, like in the very
Mm.
foreseeable future. You can't just have a
Yeah,
fatal diagnosis
right.
where you have like a chronic creeping disease that will lead to your death years down the road. Now it's it had to used to have to be in the foreseeable future, like soon. Now it's none of that. It doesn't even have to be fatal. You can just end it all if you're not satisfied with the quality of your medical care in this country, which I don't think anybody's satisfied with the quality of their medical care in this country because we have publicly funded healthcare, which means you have publicly rationed healthcare and surgical delays forever. It takes 2 years to get a knee surgery. So maybe you want to end it all. Just look at the Canadian government for help. Anyway, the
This
video we have to show after my big rant there is that we members of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, they are explaining why Canada's radical euthanasia approach is morally corrupt. Sorry to have cut you off there, Drea.
no, it's
In 2014, I lost my brother, and I have never been the same since. I've gone through several traumas and stressors since then, culminating in a range of serious mental health symptoms in 2018. That year, I was hospitalized 5 times, one time for 5 weeks, including a stay at the acute psychiatric unit. And it was one of the worst years of my life. When I was discharged, my father had to keep my medication in his room to keep me safe. And at one point, I was so depressed I didn't leave the bed or the couch for weeks on end, leading to my sister becoming so concerned that she called the ambulance. If MAID had been presented as an option to me at that time, as a solution to the emotional pain and distress I felt, I may not be here today. It was a really rough time, and it's only the care of the psychiatrists, psychologists, pharmacists, social workers. It's only through their care at the hospital that I was able to get better and move through that time in my life.
When I then started trying to recover, I found that I couldn't. I think my first time trying to recover, I lasted 85 days before I relapsed. And then every time it was shorter and shorter. And I got to the point where I figured, I'm not going to be able to recover this. I will never get better. I'll just have to live with this for forever. And so facing down the prospect of, the rest of my life being, 1 year after another of amorphous existential suffering, I figured that death was my only solution. And so I first attempted suicide when I was 15 years old. And I attempted suicide 7 times in the 2 years of particular acute pain, although the depression and the struggles with mental illness continued long after after that acute period. I never sought treatment. And if you had offered me medical assistance in dying in that moment, I would have taken it, because I really genuinely believed that death was the only solution to the suffering that I experienced.
With Bill C-314, we would be reversing the decision to extend medical assistance in dying to people whose sole underlying condition is mental illness. We know that it's not a possibility to predict whether someone with mental illness will become better or worse. Psychiatrists can't predict it. And oftentimes we put an emphasis on suicide prevention measures for people like me. Talking to a friend, asking them if they have a plan, being there for people that we notice are acting differently. All of these suicide prevention measures, I think, are what we need to emphasize when it comes to care for vulnerable people. And as Canadians, we can't do both. We can't put our emphasis on preventing suicide while also presenting MAID as an option for people with mental illness.
And so I would ask people to consider that, to hear the stories of those who experience mental illness, to speak to those in your community who experience mental illness, and to really think about what it means to be offering suicide assistance to those who need suicide prevention. Thank you.
Yeah, she nailed it at the end there. I mean, this is just so evil and wrong. As a mental health professional, it makes me really sick to my stomach. There are so many times where people struggle with thoughts of suicide for a variety of different reasons. And the lady who said it's a team of people that come together that should be talking about helping you get through it, not ending your life. And there's so many people. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as getting off of your meds where you start to have these feelings again. And most people are just simply not in their right state of mind. How on earth are we leaving that up to them to end their life? Something so extreme, so drastic. Again, I just feel nauseous that this is the country I live in, that they do not value the sanctity of life whatsoever. And then on the other hand, the same people are defending child mutilation as some sort of form as preventing transgender kids from suicide. So you can't even buy that narrative if they're okay with something like this.
That was exactly the point that I was going to make. Out of one corner of their mouth, they're saying we must do these things because we have to prevent a suicide of transgender children. And I agree, we must prevent that suicide. I just have a different viewpoint on how we can do that while simultaneously offering medical assisted suicide to the mentally ill. It's horrific. It's
eugenics.
It is like eugenics. And then, the harvesting the organs of these people, seeing them as just the raw materials.
How much fun is that? I can hardly wait. If you like cruising already, well, this is truly something unique. And if you've never been on a cruise ship before, this is the perfect way to start with a group of like-minded rebels from coast to coast. You can find out all the details, including the different cabin prices, at rebelnewscruise.com. I know you're going to look back on it as the vacation of a lifetime. We've reserved a limited number of Rebel News cabins, so book yours today at rebelnewscruise.com. We'll see you there.